So the big tax question is this: how do wealthy people keep their money working for them when selling their business, real estate, or other highly appreciated assets without paying hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in tax? What if we, as business and real estate owners who have poured blood, sweat, and tears to growing our wealth, and who didn't hire expensive tax attorneys and CPAs to map out an exit strategy, knew their secrets? Instead of recreating the wheel, why can't we just model the way they deferred 30 to 50% in tax, paid off debt, funded their next business dream, and most importantly, leave a financial legacy to give to the causes we believe in most? What if their secrets weren't complicated at all, and you just need a guide who is a few steps ahead of you? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Brett Swarts, and welcome to Capital Gains Tax Solutions. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Build Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors on the journey from millions to billions. We believe the key to scaling and compounding your wealth and life starts every single day with the mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership and applying billionaire biblical principles. I'm your host today, Brett Swarts. Every episode, we're joined by some of the world's top millionaires, billionaires, and entrepreneurs who share their journey and share their secrets with us so we can all level up on our wealth building and also our impact, making an impact. I'm excited about our next guest. He is an expert when it comes to all things Airbnb and how to cash flow in 60 days or less. And he's the founder of B&B Cash Flow Systems. And he's going to talk to us about what's going on with the Airbnb world here in 2025. Please welcome to the show with me, Daanish, Azim. Daanish, how are we doing?
Good, man. I appreciate you having me on, Brett.
Absolutely. And for our listeners, get to know you for the first time, why don't you give us just a little bit more about your story and your current focus, and then we'll dive into the what's going on with the Airbnb world.
Yeah, so quick story about myself. I'm based out in Miami, Florida area. I've been an entrepreneur since I was about 18, 19 years old, currently 28, and done different businesses over the course of the past 8, 10 years of being involved in the entrepreneurship space. But specifically for the past 3 years, I've been more involved into doing Airbnb arbitrage. Came across the business model a few years back through a Grant Cardone interview that I was watching, and he talked about this business model with a guy named Brian Page, and it really intrigued me. Started learning more about it. Eventually just took action, got my first property, and short story, 3 years later, have about 19 properties and been teaching other people on how to do Airbnb arbitrage the right way for the past about 2 years now.
Excellent. So, and for the number one question I have right now is what would you say is the current market of Airbnb? What are you seeing? What's changed in the last couple of years, and how is the market in 2025?
Yeah, so I would say since I started in like around 2022, middle of 2022, it's definitely changed a little bit. Where in terms of like, I would tell someone 3, 4 years ago, you can actually take iPhone photos, have decent furniture, and actually get booked out. Now it's a lot more. Guests are expecting a lot more. They're expecting crazy services. They're expecting, even though you might have an average property and they expect like 5-star treatment, like they booked a 5-star hotel. So that's changing, and just you cannot just regularly do Airbnb no more. Where hey, you took some iPhone photos, you use old furniture, and you put the listing up, and you think you're gonna get booked out. It's like you have to have professional photos, you have to have nice furniture, nice designs. All these things have really good customer service, have really good teams in place where you can actually sustain this business and actually be profitable month over month with this kind of business.
Okay, that makes sense. So you got to really go pro. You can't just be amateurs like maybe as you used to be, and you've got to
100%.
update your cameras, your design, your teams. Everything's got to be like your 5-star, ideally resort, is what I'm hearing here. What's the number 2 secret to being successful in 2025 in Airbnbs?
So number 2, definitely, which everyone knows about, but it's basically just picking a good market and understanding that the demographic of that market. So if you're getting into a market, you also have to read, okay, what kind of people are visiting in this market? Is it people that are actually coming for tourism? Is it people because they're coming maybe as like a travel nurse? Are they coming here because they're coming for business meetings that happen maybe at like a convention center? So according to the demographic of people that are coming in the market, you're going to do Airbnb. Are you designing your place according to that? Which I think is very important, which a lot of people just think it's about, hey, can I just get a property? But you have to know how to do it. So like, for example, I picked up a property in Nashville, Tennessee, a mile away from Broadway. I can't just normally do furniture there like a regular place where I just have basic blue and white walls. People are coming there for bachelorette trips, they're coming there because they're coming for concerts. So knowing how to really theme out the place for those people will help you make a lot more money compared to just setting up that place normally.
Okay, excellent. And by the way, you want to learn more about Daanish Azim and what he's doing, you can go to bnbcashflowsystem.com, bnbcashflowsystem.com. So what's the next secret here to being successful in 2025?
I think it's really having good teams and systems in place. So a lot of people when they get into a business, let's say like Airbnb arbitrage, they think they have to do everything themselves. For me, I currently run about 19 properties. I am not going out to every single property. I'm not cleaning the properties. So just having good teams and then systems and operations in place is very important when you're running a business like this. So you have to have good cleaners. You have to have maybe someone that can go build out your furniture rather than you flying out and spending weeks. You hire two, three people that can go build out all the furniture in a few days. So those things are going to be very important, especially with doing Airbnb in 2025, is really having those right people in place for your business.
Okay, excellent. Let's shift a little bit into the maybe the most common mistakes people are making, or those that are perhaps a couple of years ago interest rates have shifted. They haven't stayed up with the design. They haven't built the teams, and now their interest rates are up, and now they're losing these properties. I sense that's happening. But what is your sense that for those that are that are kind of in distress mode right now?
Yeah, so I think majority of people that fail in the Airbnb short-term rental space is they're just not running it as a proper business in terms of like if we looked at Airbnb, half of the properties are probably not like they don't have professional pictures. Half of the properties, the furniture, the design is just not looking appealing where guests want to book because there's other competition in the area that have the professional pictures, that have nice furniture, that have the design. So those properties are getting booked versus people that maybe did the Airbnb business 3 years ago, 5 years ago, they could just make a listing and get it booked because the competition wasn't as high as it is today. And then also another thing that I've seen a lot of people fail is not knowing how to price their property. So for
Mm-hmm.
me and people I've taught is like you have to learn how to dynamically price your property. Every day cannot be the same price. You cannot put, hey, every single weekday I'm gonna have $200, and every single weekend I'm gonna have $300 for the weekends, and then you end up getting booked 15 out of 30 days. So knowing how to really set up dynamic pricing where, okay, a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is going to be a lot lower. For example, one of my Nashville properties, which is a two bed, two bath, on a Tuesday, Wednesday, I might drop my price to $60, $70. But that same weekend, I can possibly get booked for $400. So knowing how to play that game of pricing is very important when you're doing a business like this in the short-term rental space.
Okay. So talk about not just pricing but team. Like if someone wants to be successful, like what does the org chart kind of look like when it comes to running an Airbnb business?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, you don't need a lot of team members in place. The main person in your team that's probably going to be the most important is going to be your cleaner because they are the person that's going in and out of the property after guests check in, guests check out. So your cleaner is probably the most important person, especially once your property is actually up and running. But in the beginning stages, when you're setting up a property, someone on your team could be a furniture builder. So instead of you going out flying somewhere, let's say you're setting up a 3 bed, 2 bath house, you don't want to go there by yourself and build furniture, especially if that's not what you are a professional in, and take multiple weeks just to save a little bit of time. Rather than, hey, you can hire someone from Thumbtack for a couple $100 or maybe $1,000 to go build a 3 bed, 2 bath property with all the furniture, and then they're getting that done in 2, 3 days. Now you can actually get a cleaner to go clean the property, and then you can get a professional photographer to go take the professional photos, and now you go make your listing and start getting bookings coming in right away.
How do you know when you want to do like a 30-day plus rental versus the Airbnb model? Like, how do you determine between those two? And like, hey, that's more like a long-term rental or 30, 60 day versus like, this is definitely an Airbnb.
Yeah, so basically the biggest way to determine that is based on the market you're in. So, are you in a market that people are coming a lot more for like vacations? People are there for short stays. Like, I have current properties in Chicago, very close to downtown. Majority of the people coming there are usually visiting for 2, 3, 4 days. Um, yes, can I attract long term tenants? It's possible, but a lot of people are coming there for a vacation spot to be near downtown, or they might be coming there for like a business event or a concert or things like that nature. Versus I've had properties, for example, I had Fort Worth, Texas properties. There were small one bedroom apartments, but a lot of people are shifting to that market to like maybe buy a house there, or they're coming for work purposes. So those people would sometimes book for a month, or even I've had a booking for 6 months from one guest. So just understanding the market that you're in and then the size of a property. Likely, if you have a 3, 4 bedroom property, most likely you're not getting a 30 plus day stay. But if you have one bedroom apartments, maybe you're near hospitals, maybe you're near like workplaces that people have major offices, it's a possibility you can actually attract those more midterm rentals.
Yeah, so that makes sense. I'm wondering what services you provide and how you help people. So maybe you could break that down if someone's listening, being like, man, I'll either want to get in the Airbnb game or I'm in it and I want to level up. Like, what services do you provide?
Yeah, so myself, I've been, of course, doing Airbnb for a few years, but I've basically been coaching and mentoring people mostly one on one, where I teach someone literally that doesn't even know what Airbnb arbitrage is and basically help them learn how to get number one, 0% business credit card. So that way you don't really have to utilize personal funding to start a business like this. Number two, how to actually like market research, how to analyze proper deals, how to figure out, okay, is a market you're going to get into, can it actually be profitable? And then knowing how to actually set up a property when it comes to like the furniture, the design, hiring your teams, and then also then making your listing, setting up the right titles, your descriptions, knowing how to price the property. And then number five is, do you know how to have the right teams and systems in place where you can remove yourself, maybe spend an hour, 2 hours a week per listing, but the business is still running fluidly. So I've basically taught people, hey, A through Z, how to get a property, how do you run it the right way, how do you design it the right way, and start actually cash flowing. Usually on average, if you're getting a between a one bedroom and a 3 bedroom house or apartment, you can most likely profit between 1,000 to 3,000 a month per property.
Okay, that's really helpful. And by the way, people want to learn more about that, you can go to bnbcashflowsystem.com, bnbcashflowsystem.com. Okay, what haven't I asked you so far that I should ask that I maybe missed?
I mean, so specifically for me, like I'm doing Airbnb arbitrage. So in terms of that, it's like a lot of people might be thinking like I was 3 years back that when you do real estate, you need 50,000, $100,000 to get started. But with the business model like arbitrage, you're not buying properties. So you are simply renting a property from a property owner. You're getting their permission to basically sublease the property, be able to sublease the property and list it as a short-term rental on websites like Airbnb, VRBO, or booking.com. And then you're able to profit the difference between how much booking revenue that you get per month compared to your expenses, which is typically your rent that you're going to pay the property owner, your utilities, and then also the cleaning fees. But a lot of people get confused that cleaning fees usually subtract out, since when you make a listing on Airbnb, you're charging your guest that cleaning fee. So it kind of minuses away from the expense that you pay your cleaners.
Got it. Okay, so that's the key, right? That makes sense. It's an arbitrage scenario where you're not having to own the property; you're just subleasing it,
Correct.
yeah, subleasing it, and then you're being basically able to turn around and get the arbitrage there, and that makes sense. Great. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Say again?
Are you ready for the lightning round?
Yeah.
Okay, so knowing what you know now, if you go back to your 20-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget make sure to tell yourself to do?
I would say find coaches or mentors that are 5 years, 10 years ahead of you and just put the ego to the side and just listen to what they have to say and just take action versus over analyzing every single detail.
Perfect. Question number two, what's the number one book you've recommended or gifted the most the past year?
In the past year, it would be called The One Thing. I forgot the author. In
It's
fact,
Gary Keller.
Gary
Yeah.
Keller. Yep, that's what I
Yep.
was thinking.
Awesome. Great book. Question number three, what are you most curious about right now?
Most curious about, I would say, is where the Airbnb market's gonna shift, since in the last year I've noticed a lot where guests are complaining a lot more. Airbnb stricting down with more AI happening. Like nowadays, they don't even have, as a host, you can't really even talk to a representative. It's like AI dealing with you. So I'm interested to see really where it goes in the next 1 or 2 years, because every business is always gonna shift in structure, and you just have to adapt as a business owner.
Cool. Number one leadership quote that you strive to live by.
Uh, Only tell others what to do if you've done it first.
It's good. Next question. Number one way you're using ChatGPT.
I use it a lot for my Airbnb listings in terms of if I want to come up with a title or description for a new property I set up. It's very simple. Like a lot of people think it takes hours and hours to make a listing. It doesn't. You could literally go in ChatGPT. Let's say I have a property that I'm launching. It's a 1 bed, 1 bath in Chicago. I would not try to think of the title. I would be like, hey, ChatGPT, type me the 10 best title ideas for my 1 bed, 1 bath in Chicago that's near downtown that has free parking. And it's going to give me like 10 really cool ideas that I can just use. Same thing for listing descriptions. I don't write out a whole listing description. I give them a few things about my property, and then it'll go lay out the whole thing. So it takes about 10 minutes, and you can actually launch a whole Airbnb listing in about 20 minutes of your time once you learn how to leverage ChatGPT.
Fantastic. And last question. How do you best stay centered in your values and stay encouraged to keep charging for even higher heights?
Biggest thing would just be, I would say, is number one, surrounding myself with the right people. So surrounding myself around go-getters, going to networking events, making sure I'm not around the wrong people would probably be the biggest thing.
Awesome. Daanish, it's been more than a pleasure to have you on the show. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, what's the best place for them to find you?
The best way to find me, honestly, is going to be my Instagram, which is my last name, Azim, and then my first name, Daanish, Daanish.
Awesome. Thanks, Daanish, for being on the show. And I also thank all of our listeners for listening to another episode of the Built to Billions podcast, or all been watching on YouTube. We're also streaming on Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast and YouTube channel. And we're on a journey to level up and to build it to billions so we can give more all of it away to help MVPs. Hey, go get your Airbnb business on, or send this to someone who could help who's in the Airbnb business or wanting to get into the business. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll talk to you all again real soon. Bye now.
You have just listened to another information-packed episode of Capital Gains Tax Solutions with Brett Swarts. We hope you enjoyed today's show and found it helpful. Visit capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to access the show notes and to access more resources. Don't forget to leave a review and join us again next time.